Like the spit upon which he was insisting, Geoffrey did not like the deepening pain in his shoulder and side. But the pain of neither could be helped. A scratching sound, sire. It sounds as if she were still alive down there and trying to work her way back up to the land of the living. This by itself would not have put him in a state of near terror, but he remembered coming to help for Bena the day after Misery's death. He and Jan had looked at each other, and Jan had tried to smile. Through his eyes were gem-like, although his eyes were gem-like, and gem-like with unshed tears. It would somehow be easier, Jan had said, if she looked more dead. I know how that sounds. Bosh, Geoffrey had said, trying to smile. The Undertaker doubtless exercised all his wit, and Undertaker? Jan nearly screamed. And for the first time, Geoffrey had truly understood that his friend was tottering on the brink of madness. Undertaker, ghoul! I've had no Undertaker, and I will have no Undertaker to come in and rouge my darling and paint her like a doll. Jan, my dear fellow, really you mustn't. Geoffrey had made as if to clap Jan on the shoulder, and somehow that had turned into an embrace. The two men wept in each other's arms, like tired children, while in some other room Misery's child, a boy now almost a day old and still unnamed, awoke and began to cry. Mrs. Ramage, whose own kindly heart was broken, began to sing it, a cradle song, in a voice cracked and full of tears. At the time, deeply afraid for Jan's sanity, he had been less concerned with that Jan had said than how he had said it. Only now, as he whipped Mary even faster toward little Dunthorpe, in spite of his own deepening pain, did the words come back haunting in light of Coulter's tale. If she looked more dead, old chap. Nor was that all. Late that afternoon, as the first of the village people had begun wending their way up Calthorpe Hill to pay their respects to the grieving Lord, Shinebone had returned. He had looked tired, not very well himself, nor was this surprising in a man who claimed to have shaken hands with Wellington, the Iron Duke himself, when he, Shinebone, not Wellington, of course, had been a boy. Geoffrey thought the Wellington story was probably an exaggeration, but old Sheeny, as he and Tan had called him as boys, had seen Geoffrey through all his childhood illnesses, and Sheeny had seemed a very old man to him, even then, always granting the eye of childhood, which stands to see anyone over the age of 25 as elderly. He thought Sheeny must be all of 75 now. He was old, he had had a hectic, terrible last 24 hours, and might not an old, tired man have made a terrible mistake, a terrible, unspeakable mistake. It was this thought, more than any other, which had set him out on this cold and windy night, under a moon which started uncertainly between the clouds. Could he have made such a mistake? Part of him, a craven, cowardly part, which would rather risk losing Misery forever than look upon the inevitable results of such a mistake, denied it. But when Sheeny came in, Geoffrey had been sitting by Jan, who was remembering in a broken, scarcely coherent way how he and Jan had rescued Misery from the palace dungeons of the mad French Viscount Leroy, how they had escaped in a wagon load of hay, and how Misery distracted one of the Viscount's guards at the critic's moment by slipping one gorgeously unclad leg out of the hay and waving it delicately. Geoffrey had been charming his own memories of the adventure, wholly in the grip of his grief by then, and he cursed that grief. How? Because to him, and to Jan as well, he supposed Sheeny had barely been there. Hadn't Sheeny seemed strangely distant, strangely preoccupied? Was it only weariness, or had it been something else, something suspicion-like? No, surely not, his mind protested uneasily. The pony trap was flying up Calthorpe Hill. The main house itself was dark, but good. There was still a single light on in Mrs. Ramage's cottage. To be continued. Hup, hup, Mary, he cried, and cracked the whip, wincing. Not much further, girl, and you can rest a bit. Surely, not what you're thinking. But Sheeny's examination of Geoffrey's broken ribs and sprained shoulder had seemed purely perfunctory, and he had spoken barely a word to Jan in spite of the man's deep grief and frequent incoherent cries. No, after the visit, which now seemed no longer than the most minimal sort of social convention would demand, Sheeny had asked quietly, "Is she?" "Yes, in the parlor," Jan had managed. Okay, it's enough for now. Thanks for listening, guys.